Yo, what's going on, everybody? Hello. I am OnceInLuv, or Tyler if you've met me before. I'm here today at the CompTOS office, and we're going to be recording a video on the 8 most impactful units for drafting. So a lot of you guys are going to sit here and you'll be like, well, this other tier list said these units are stronger, these units are stronger. I want to preface that this video specifically is on drafting. So what I mean when I say drafting strength is when you pick this unit, it changes the way that you have to approach your draft. You can no longer pick X, Y, and Z. Sometimes you have to consider, oh, maybe I need to force ban that already. And that's what we're gonna do this entire tier list based on. So for example, if I pick something like Geldner, then you can no longer pick Antares, right? So that's a very strong strength setup in that case. If I have Geldner, you can no longer pick Masha, for example, right? Because every single turn you're going to be giving me stacks, which means overall you're going to be struggling. Like you're not going to be able to actually deal enough damage through the healing. So with that said, number 8 is actually Masha. So I think Masha is really good right now because with the changes to her passive, giving her the speed bonus as well as the every turn immunity, she's able to give herself a sense of very strong protection while still being a very strong damage dealer. She has self-defense break as well as a slow debuff and technically a second life with the dismount. So overall, when the Masha comes out, a lot of people reconsider units like, oh, do I really want to pick my Juno early? Do I really want to take Sierra? You know, these units that are a little on the squishier side. Some people will still take Oliver into Masha, but Masha is a very good way to deal with that as well as a strong deterrent for the pick. So now that we talked about it, I did actually mention it earlier. Number 7 is going to be a combination of 2 units. They don't have to be paired together, but when they are paired together, they are absolutely unstoppable against certain combos. It's going to be Bulwark and Geldner. If you're not familiar with what units those are, that's the Water and the Light Lightning Emperor. Now the reason I put them together is because they recently got buffed so that they get stacks every turn on their natural turn. But right now in the meta, there are so many units that give themselves buffs. We have Shizuka for tons of buffs. We have Antares to give self buffs. We have Masha to give her the 1-turn immunity every single turn. With Bulwark, you're going to be getting your 5 stacks. You're going to be able to take 50% of someone's HP and heal. With Geldner, you're going to get stacks that every time you get hit, you heal your whole team. So if you have Bulwark and Geldner, you know, you're in a golden spot. And, you know, for a lot of you Geldner owners sitting there like, oh, buff my Geldner, please. It might be your season. So before we continue on through this list onto number 6, I do want to reiterate, this is about drafting strength. This is not about what unit is the best, what unit is the worst. However, some of these units may coincide with units that are incredibly good. So on to number 6, guys, we have Dominik. So Dominik has been an absolute menace. He's still really strong. They nerfed him again. He's still really good, guys. Dominik has such a strange place in the meta because the passive effect from his skill 3, the attack bar reduction, as well as the damage according to his attack, doesn't glance. So what that means is you can use it into fire units, you can use it into Molly, you can use it into any of these things, and it still applies. Obviously, it can be 15% resisted, but for this reason, it gives you this opportunity to really play a lot of snipe comps with Dominik. You know, 1 early turn proc with an attack buff is most of the time a unit's going to be dead. So when you have a Dominik in the field, you need to be very mindful of how you can kill it, how you can control it, or what it can kill on your team. So number 5 is an old classic, the old 2018 menace himself, Mr. Molong. You've been making a comeback. So the reason Molong makes this tier list is because Molong redefines the way you have to draft. When you see a Molong in the field, you have to take either a Nana, an Abellio, a Triana. You need something that protects you from the Molong, or you need to be mindful of how you might ban it, how you might outspeed it. The crazy thing with Molong is there are so many combinations in the game you can use now to pair with it for the one-shot. We have Molong Wusa, Molong Dominik, Molong Masha, Molong Miles, Molong Akares. There are so many options that you can use for these snipes, and Molong has gained relevance again and become a very scary unit. Another thing you have to keep in mind is that you can run Molong on Swift. So if your whole draft is around the 275, 280 speed, let's say you're a Guardian 1, Guardian 2 player, if I run a whole team of Swift snipe units, like that's going to catch you off guard. And although you might get it in the second game, you might never match that person on ladder ever again. So getting into the top 4 here, we are at the end half of this video. I'm sure you guys can guess what this one is, so I'll give you a second to guess. If you haven't guessed already, it's Gianna. Gianna, absolutely incredible unit. Just recently got a nerf to skill 1, so her attack bar gain has changed from 45 to 30% on triple crits. However, she's still incredibly strong because of the way her skill 3 works. So her skill 3 is a strip into stun, which only utilizes one accuracy resist check. So as long as you hit the strip, you're guaranteed to stun. And for that reason, Gianna is very, very scary. Having a base speed of 100, fairly good accuracy, fairly good base stats overall, Gianna redefines the way you draft because you have to consider, do I outspeed her? Do I run non-will? If I run non-will, can I protect myself against what else she has? It's very, very tough to figure out when and where you can throw that in because Hagang has been falling out lately, right? Hagang can still be used as a hard counter to Gianna, but you have to keep in mind that there are a lot of other things that are very good against Hagang right now. The number 3, everyone's favorite, or maybe least favorite, it's Oliver. Oliver has been absolutely meta-defining since the moment he was released, even after his nerf, bringing down the total damage he deals ramping from skill 3. Oliver is incredible, very strong and very scary. He gives you a 33% speed lead, which is 9% more than your average, your Water Ryu, your Sierras, your Chiwus, your Tomoes, if you're like me and you're a Tomoe user. But the thing with Oliver that makes him incredibly strong is that cooldown resets don't actually glance. So when you use your skill 3 into a fire unit, you can only get 15% for the attack or for the cooldown reset, right? But if you glance, then there's no chance to get attack bar. So Oliver is kind of like this pseudo light and dark unit with a speed lead. So that's one of the reasons why I put him in the top 3 for drafting. When an Oliver comes out on the field, you have to be very mindful because on first turn, if they are going for control cleave, AoE CCs, or even double single target strips, Oliver's able to reset and like technically control 2 units on the first turn. And for that reason, he makes number 3 on my list. All right, now number 2, I'm sure you figured it out by now. I haven't brought it up yet in the list, but you guys have seen it everywhere. It's been in SWC so far, it's been in the Legend Tournament, and that is Shizuka. Shizuka is different. She is built different. With her skill 3 and her skill 2 cycling, she has so much flexibility in the way you use her. If you want to use her early on for 2-turn immunity so you can play turn 2, with the skill 3 you can do that. If you want to wait to recycle debuffs, whether it's bombs, stuns, dots, slow debuff, whatever it is, she has a lot of strength on that side. If you need to give yourself an attack buff, if you want 2-turn invincibility because you're using an Oberon or a Water Monkey King, all of these compositions and combinations allow Shizuka to be so flexible that she could even be a first pick for a lot of people. She's reached that point where she's so fun to use as well as so effective at her job that she's really, really, really good. I think one of the scariest things about Shizuka that really puts her in the top 2 for me is that her skill 2 lowers the cooldown of whoever it's used on. So if you don't need to use it on yourself or your skill 3 because you've saved it, you could lower the cooldown of your Tomoe, your Oliver, your Masha, your Molong, whatever it is. And a really cool thing that I actually figured out recently, and I'm sure some of you already knew about this, but if you skill 2 revive a Molong from dead and use Reckless, it totally works and it's 70% HP. Which is actually pretty crazy because it got me a sick win against a Carbine with a full water team. All right, guys, this is the end of the video. This is the number 1 most impactful drafting pick in the game. A lot of you will agree with this. A lot of content creators agree with this. Personally, I don't think he's the number 1 strongest in the game. I think if you get a couple LDs, he is. But I will wholeheartedly agree that in the drafting phase, this unit makes or breaks the way you draft and the way you ban. And that is my boy, Gurkha. So I pulled my Gurkha on July 1st, Canada Day. Surin pulled it for me, actually. We were hanging out in call, and she summoned that for me. So that was really nice. But the reason that Gurkha is so defining in the draft right now is if you don't have the CC or the nuke ability to deal with the Gurkha, you basically lose instantly against it. It has 2-turn provoke, 2-turn defense break. It has 100% attack bar gain when hit by a provoked target with 20% healing. So what happens is if you get provoked once and you don't stun him twice in a row, you're gonna get CC locked. And for that reason, Gurkha is the number 1 best drafting unit in the game. So for me, most of these units being picked in slot 1, 2, or 3 is gonna be the really big defining one. However, some of these units in slot 5 are absolutely terrifying. Gurkha slot 5, well, that Oliver you were gonna ban, not anymore. You're banning Gurkha now. So thank you very much for joining me for this video. This is OnceInLuv, and peace out, guys.